Hi, good morning, everyone. First of all, a huge apologies because I am one of the culprits who's late. Okay, I came from Gurgaon. I started at 9, thinking I'll be here by 10:30, but I don't know in range whether Mumbai is better or Delhi is better. Okay, I'm an optimist. That's why I'm saying better instead of using worse. So, yeah. But anyway, we are all here, and first of all, huge warm welcome to all of you at the second edition of Business World Festival of Marketing. And I'm grateful to Dr. Batra and the Business World team for this opportunity to discuss a topic that is both close to my heart and crucial for continued success, which is, as Amit said, the power of differentiated marketing in lean times. And I think if I look at the hall, there are possibly distinguished marketers in this hall and people with marketing pedigree and skills much beyond that what I have. But I'll draw upon my career and experience over 30 years in different markets, different geographies, different spaces, different brands to speak a bit about marketing. And that too, I will touch on the power of differentiated marketing in lean times. But I'd also like to touch upon a few fundamental beliefs I have, whether you call them marketing beliefs or business beliefs that I've picked up, and that have really stood me in good stead, whether it was bad times or good times. And I think it'll be my fortune to share with many of the youngsters in this room who still have a long career ahead of them and a long journey to success ahead of them. So coming back to differentiated marketing in lean times, I think where I want to start is from a marketing perspective, differentiation matters. Okay, that's the simple truth. Whether it is lean times or stable times or good times, that is what drives choice for consumers and customers. And differentiation is why consumers would trust us and pay us a premium over something which is not differentiated, which is run-of-the-mill, which is a commodity. And that's why in marketing, differentiation creates that value or value propositions that we give to our consumers and customers. I think that's the first basic thought I have. The second is, whether it is lean times or euphoric times or exuberant times or good economic growth, prosperity, there can be no let up in a marketer's efforts to continue building their brands and continue driving equity metrics. And something that you should always remember, brands don't get built in a year, brands get built over hundreds of years. It also means arriving at an optimized mix for our marketing goals all the time. Okay, whether good or bad, always focus on driving your mix, market mix, spend efficiencies, and there's never a bad time for doing that. And the third thing I would say is to thrive, we must know what are our targets or audience's needs and wants, and keep working towards refining our value propositions, and that's where innovation comes in and plays a huge role in building brands. And I think that means insight generation and brand propositions built on true insights will stay core to marketing discipline. I had the fortune of working for about 5 years in Procter, P&G, and A.G. Lafley, the CEO, always espoused consumer is boss mindset. He used to say, I'm not the boss, you're not the boss, consumer is the boss. Okay, and that is who pays our bills. And the whole organization was focused around winning at what he called 2 moments of truth. The first moment of truth is when the consumer or customer buys your product. And the second moment of truth is when they use it and experience the product. And as marketers, we have to win both the moments of truth. And then a third moment of truth got added on, which is the zero moment of truth, which is actually point of sale. So we have, as marketers, our brand also needs to win at point of sale when the first consumer interaction happens with the brand, or even before point of sale. In today's digital world, a lot of interaction with brand happens at the consideration stage or awareness to consideration part of the funnel. So I think these are some of the simple tenets that I always hold true in my head and when I talk to my teams and our teams. Let's move on to lean times, okay? And I'm sure there are many business leaders in the room, and during lean times, our first instinctive reaction is cut spend, okay? Anything happens, cut spending. However, there are enough case studies in the history of marketing which indicate the opposite actually. That brands that have doubled down on marketing spending during lean times actually win. And in 2008, Millward Brown shared evidence that 60% of the brands that went dark during an economic downturn, which means they did not spend on TV for 6 months or more, actually saw brand use decline 24% and brand image decreased by about 28%. Businesses that continue to maintain share of voice and share of market spend during a downturn have actually shown a longer-term improvement in profitability that outweighed the short-term savings. And I've been a marketer and I've been a business head, and I think one of the tenets, and Rohit, our CMO, is sitting here, and my last place to go to in terms of cost cutting is the marketing spend. I want to protect that at all costs because I believe that is important, yeah? Just to quote a few examples that appeared in a Forbes story some time back about how recessions have been pivotal moments for brands to win market share. In the 20s, in US, Post was the category leader and significantly cut ad spending during the Great Depression. Kellogg's instead doubled down on spending and introduced Rice Krispies at the same time as an innovation, and their profits grew 30%. And Kellogg's actually went on to own the category for the next few decades. And I think the latest is, you've heard the Mars news. Mars has kind of taken over Calanova, or will be taking over Calanova, which is Mars's entry into cereal business. During the 1973 recession, Toyota increased its ad spend at a time when everyone else dropped their spending. And Toyota went on to become the biggest imported car maker in US by 1976. That's a classic, another classic case story. Similarly, in 91 recession, McDonald's dropped its advertising budget, which Pizza Hut and Taco Bell took advantage of. Pizza Hut sales grew 61%, and Taco Bell sales grew by 40%, and McDonald's declined by 28%. And I think there are numerous examples, whether you look at technology. Amazon increased its spend, introduced Kindle in time of recession in 2009, went on to win. And I think closer home, I have experienced this myself. I took over the role as Managing Director of Castrol India in 2020, came here in Jan, and then COVID struck. Okay, and what did we do? We continued our marketing spend in the second half of 2020 and first half of 21. We never cut our advertising, although the country was under a shutdown, and that rewarded us with increased market shares as we came into 21, and actually bumper quarterly sales in the first quarter of 21, and then we saw the same phenomena in first quarter of 22. The question I would ask is, are we really going through lean times? And I think in my 3 decades of experience that stretches across companies like Gillette, Procter & Gamble, and now Castrol, which is a part of BP. If there is one thing that I've learned is treat every year as a linear. Works wonders with discipline of marketing, because then you focus on strategy, you focus on how to manage your budgets, you focus on how to manage your costs. And I think it just means arriving at an optimized mix for our marketing goals. But one thing I would strongly advise is, in lean times, go back to consumers and customer interactions, okay? Because what happens is the mindset shifts slightly, and the value propositions that we bring to them may need to change slightly. In lean times, value becomes more important to consumers or customers, and therefore communicating value becomes a much better strategy or approach, because I think consumers' propensity to take risk goes down. And that is why they would always come back to the trusted brands, the brands that they trust, okay, because they seek reassurance that if I'm spending X amount of money, it's not going to be a waste. And that's why they lean back on their trusted brands and usage of trusted brands. The other thing I would say is, and Dr. Batra touched on that, is I think there's a lot of technology, data, science available now to continue sense checking how consumers and customers are behaving. Okay, so make use of that, leverage that, and that'll come in very handy. So my sincere advice to marketers and business leaders here in the room is, in lean times, double down on your investments and don't cut down on marketing spends, as it will pay rich dividends in times to come. That was my spiel on lean times and differentiated marketing, but let me also share a few fundamental beliefs that I've built over the years. The first belief I have is brands matter. And brands supported with innovation matter even more. Because you have to keep our brands contemporary. Consumers expect that. As Dr. Batra was saying, the consumer has become a lot more younger. Their needs and wants are very different from the needs and wants of consumers 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And I think if I look at Castrol, we've been globally available for 125 years. Okay, and in 24, actually, we're celebrating 125 years of Castrol, and we've been in India for about 115 years. So there must be something right that we've done. Okay. But during this journey, we've refreshed our brands about 10 plus times. The last refresh was in 2023, and that keeps us contemporary, that keeps us relevant and engaged with consumers. And I think our board chairman is Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, ex-Unilever. He was on the board of various Tata companies, and Tata & Sons, a prolific writer, management guru. And he tells me, and he made this statement to me, he said, Sandeep, you've just inherited this brand from your predecessors. And you're reaping the fruits of what they've done for the brand. Okay? So you're just a custodian of this brand to continue building this great brand so that it can be passed on to the next generation. And I think I found that very wise, and also that puts a huge responsibility on me and my team to make sure that we're doing the right things for the brand. The second thing I want to say is, be clear on your brand equity and what it stands for. And what are your points of differentiation, and what are the unique identities that are associated with your brand. Okay? And there will be many examples. As Dr. Batra was saying, brand purpose, what are you delivering to the consumers, should be the first question you ask. How are you delivering value? And if I look at Castrol from a uniqueness perspective, there are three things that we never give up. One is the Castrol roundel, and red, green, and the white color. Okay. Anytime a consumer sees a roundel with a green, red, and white color, the brand Castrol comes to their mind. Okay. And that's something that we've maintained all along. The third thing I would say is brands need to be authentic so that consumers can trust us. Okay. Be really, really very authentic in what we stand for, and don't try and fool consumers. It never pays out. And good storytelling never goes out of fashion as a marketer. Fine. So in all your communication, tell stories. Even if you're telling your benefit and reason to believe and the general way you build your communication, tell stories. Because people engage with stories, and that's what they remember. So from a comms perspective, a good storytelling, a good creative is always going to do wonders for your brand. And I think there are two other things I would touch upon, which are kind of, one more thing which I forgot to mention is be simple in your communication. Don't make it very complicated. Okay, you don't need a PhD to understand what the marketer is trying to communicate. And I think one of the best pieces of communication I've seen, at least personally, that's the way I see it, over the last, in the last 6 months is Sensodyne. Okay, you see the visual, you get it. You see the ad, you get it. And I think the credit must go to the marketing team at Haleon, even in terms of their media mix and the media strategy, you cannot miss the ad. Okay. It just keeps popping up on digital platforms, on outdoors, on TV, and I think that's one of the best pieces of creative and comms that I've seen. And as a brand, as I hear, it's doing extremely well. Two things which will become far more important as we go into the future. One is technology and data-driven marketing. And at the outset, I would say marketing needs to make money. It's not for charity, okay? Because any business leader would ask you, what is your ROI? As simple as that, okay? So leverage data to generate insights, and more performance marketing is becoming far more crucial. How do you kind of get consumer actually to move through the funnel and buy your product? That's the ultimate aim. And MarTech is here to stay. So my advice to all the youngsters is skill up yourself in AI, skill up yourself. What does performance marketing mean, and how to use MarTech to drive efficiency. And I think AI will also have a huge impact on efficiency, especially around the processes of creative development. It gives you far more options. It gives you far more agility. So adopt it rather than kind of saying, no, that's not where we want to go. And the second thing is, which Dr. Batra said, is ESG. Okay? Brands need to be sustainable. I worked in Germany, I worked in Europe for a number of years, and consumers actually in India, it may be a small segment, but in Germany, if you're not sustainable, people will reject you. And the other thing that we've learned is people will not pay a premium for sustainable products. Okay, they expect it at the same price because it is the right thing to do. There are three other things that I want to leave you with, things that I believe in as marketers, as business leaders. The first thing is people matter. So treat your team members, treat your colleagues the way you want to be treated. Okay? Humility, trust, empathy never goes out of fashion. So please focus on people. Okay? When you leave organizations, people don't remember what you did. People remember you, how good a leader you were, or how good you were with people. And promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. because diversity will always lead to better outcomes and better decisions. The second thing which is very close to my heart and which I keep pushing is excellence in execution. If a strategy which is not well executed is not worth the paper it is written on. So focus on excellence in execution, because that can make a 70 look like 150. And I go back to many years, and I used to work in Gillette, and we used to have this thing called in-store theater. One mantra we had was that we have to win at point of sale, okay? And any consumer walking into a retail store, and in modern times, walking in onto an e-commerce website, should not miss Gillette, okay? We need to own all the checkouts in a modern trade environment. We needed to have displays in a traditional environment. And in fact, I remember I was in Jaipur, I used to be area sales manager for Gillette ages ago. Many of you may not have been born then. And I used to have a scooter, and while going with my wife, I used to keep looking at shops. And we just got married, and she said, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I'm looking at our displays. Is 7 o'clock visible or not?" So those are some of the basics. And the third thing I would say is a sense of urgency, okay? Or something I call continuous dissatisfaction. There is always a better way to do things. So keep questioning, okay? And to conclude, as marketers, have aspirations. And I'll close with a quote from Leo Burnett, which said, "When you reach for the stars, you may not get quite one, but you won't come up with a handful of mud either." So thank you very much, and have a good session.